Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. We have had a lot of crazy stuff happen this weekend in regards to the Quentin Simon case. We have had multiple protesters being arrested on 2 separate occasions, as well as family members coming forward and reaching out to YouTubers. One of those family members being Michael Simon, which is Leilani's either stepbrother or half-brother. Now, he has reached out to several channels, but in this video, we are going to go over the questions he answered during Dolly Vision's live stream. This is the live stream that he joined right here. I will link it down in the description below. And we're going to go through all of the key points or the most important things that were said. So first he says who he is, that he is Leilani's brother, that he does not live in the home. He is just there for support. So he is currently at their home. And he is actually the person who called the police on the protesters that were standing in front of the truck when the family was trying to leave. So Michael says, to be honest, I was leaving to go buy cigarettes. They were standing in front of his car and would not move. Dolly asked the question, why is nobody out there at the landfill? Michael responds, there are some things that the FBI says that we can't do. One of the things I'll tell you is almost at the very beginning of the first 2 days, they were searching. Then after that, when the FBI took over, we were told literally we cannot go out to the landfill. We cannot go out searching. And then Michael says, we can't do any of that. We were literally told not to because we can impede the investigation. So then Michael brings up that people are complaining about the cameras they have on their house, that they were hooked up, but one of them isn't working and he's still trying to get it fixed now. So this is the camera that is at the back of their house. Someone on panel asks, I have a question. Do you support the fact that they went out to the bar? Michael responds, they only went out to the bar for dinner. And then he says that everyone is twisting that his mom is the only one who had a shot. And then he says after that, they just went back to the hotel. So we were there literally moments before you guys showed up. So Michael was there earlier before Dolly and Betty had shown up there. Now Dolly asks, do you think your sister could do something like this in your own mind? He says, I have never seen my sister be like that with them children. I have only seen her ever be loving to them children, and that's the thing that's really confusing. He asks him how well he knows Danny, and he says he's only met Danny a handful of times. Brings up the memorial situation and says he would also just like to clarify about that they moved the memorial because people kept leaving mean things. And then he talks about that they put a no trespassing sign up, but that anybody who wants to leave stuff for Quentin, they're more than welcome to, but P.S. you're on camera. And then he says, but that people totally turned that around. So I don't know, I guess maybe people were upset about the camera comment. I'm not really sure on that. Dolly asks him if when the FBI was searching in the home, if he knew if they took anything from the home. He says, yes, but I won't disclose anything else. Then Dolly asks, do you know if a vehicle was ever seized? And he says, I don't know if I can disclose that. So Dolly asks, at 9:30, was she asleep when he got up and called the babysitter? He's talking about Danny. And Michael replies, from what Danny said, yes, and from what Leilani said, yes. This is around the time where they talk about the protesters and Michael being the one to call the police on the protesters. Context for this conversation is that people on panel are basically telling Michael that he should drop the charges. And he responds saying that he wasn't trying to cause any drama. It wasn't his intent, but they were literally aggressively up in their yard. They were yelling and threatening and telling me to get out and come fight them and all kinds of crap. Oh, if you would like to see that full video where the protesters are standing in front of his vehicle not allowing him to leave, it is this one right here. And then right here Michael says, I know that if it's one of our family members, we're gonna walk them to the court. They're not getting away with what they've done. They asked Michael about the pool being searched and he said that they did that just to be sure there wasn't anything in there because the pool had not been cleaned yet. Now, Bullhorn Betty calls in to ask questions. I believe Dolly just called her on the phone and he's holding his phone up to the microphone because she doesn't join the panel like you normally would. And she's talking about the information that they got about Leilani targeting Quentin. She said it seemed like something everybody knew about, but nobody talked about. You never heard anything. And then he says, no, I believe those are false accusations. Every time the family members here, all the friends here will tell you, and everyone that comes here, people from the church, they will all tell you the same thing. And then she says, okay, can you explain why there's a text message? Because there seems like there was hostility in that household, and that people knew she was hitting that child in that household because there was a poster sister posted on Wednesday the 28th, basically said, I can't even play with my husband and my kids without somebody thinking more is going on. And I'll show you that post. So this is the post she was talking about. This is from Leilani Yunkin on September 18th. Can't even horseplay with my man and kids without someone coming in the room assuming the worst. Now, I actually don't think that Leilani and Danny are married. They're just boyfriend and girlfriend. So she goes on basically saying there are some concerns about her roughhousing in that house, and nobody's informed you of that. And I feel like, maybe I'm glad you are doing your research, but hopefully you'll get clarity and find the truth with that research. But, you're around people that have harmed a child, and I just, when you're getting this information and from who you're getting this information from, I just hope that you take that into consideration, because we were in town for this, wasn't even one or two people, but we heard this information from an enormous amount of people in the community that all had the same story. She goes on to say that Michael seems like he's very nice and that he's the normal one out of the family. And then she ends up ending the call shortly after this. And then Michael says that he would just like to clarify or comment about, because she was talking about the post. So he said what he did know is that there was tension between Leilani and her boyfriend. So now I thought this part was interesting. Michael says that there's another side of this investigation that he just can't disclose. And then someone says, can you tell us why Danny was allowed to leave town? Michael says he wasn't allowed to, but because it's an ongoing investigation, they can't stop him without evidence. Now, he also had this to say about Danny. He said that his parents came down here and they were doing things they weren't supposed to be doing, and that they hauled butt out of there. So basically, the family members were confused by Danny leaving. He apparently didn't really even tell anyone he was leaving and just dipped out. They ask if you could say something to the protesters outside of your house, what would you say? He said, I'm sorry for having to call the cops, but when you feel endangered, you kind of have to do what you have to do. And we're all very saddened with what's going on, and we're all trying to figure everything out. You guys aren't the only ones, but we have been barred from being able to interact, to be able to disclose certain information. As long as they're not coming up in our yard, as long as they're not throwing things at you, none of that stuff. If they're peaceful protesters, that's fine. But if they're going to be out there calling baby killer and that stuff, then they're obviously not okay with that. All this other stuff, when they really have no evidence to back that yet, to me is wrong. And then he talks about the restaurant incident. Again, he says that was just blown out of proportion. They were literally just at the restaurant having dinner, and that they left there because of all of the protesters. Dolly says, let me ask you this, Michael. Do you believe that the FBI should be looking into other people other than your family? He says, I do, strongly. Dolly asks Michael about the video where Billy Joe is storming into Diana McCarta, the babysitter's home. And Michael said that Billy Joe was actually invited into the house to sit on the couch, and then it got emotional and it blew up from there. And now here's where he's talking about Danny again. He says he was there one day and then this happened, and now he's just gone. Then he talks about his parents were coming down there, and then he says there may be more to it than what everyone is thinking. They're really good, and that's what people need to understand, is we're all trying to figure it out. There are more leads than what law enforcement and what the media is showing. He says there's a lot going on, but that Leilani has never confessed to hurting this child or doing anything to this child. He then says, if any of us ever heard information like that, then she knows very well that we would walk her straight in, basically take her straight to the police department. Now, they asked Michael in the live stream about this message right here that Billy Joe sent, and he does join back later into the live stream. So Michael says that the FBI came here and they delivered the information to us, and they said that they believed that Leilani is the one who did it, and that they believe she honestly doesn't remember. And then he says they believe that they said because of her past traumas and drug abuse, and because she had her wisdom teeth pulled and stuff like that, that they believe she honestly does not remember. And then he goes on to say that Leilani in her heart really believes that this information is false. So Leilani honestly doesn't believe that she's the one responsible for what happened to Quentin. And this is Dolly saying, had said, like I woke up and the baby was just gone. Is that what she says was happening? And he says, yeah. Michael says that when the FBI told her that, let me tell you, she broke down. She meaning Leilani. So basically he's saying the FBI came to their home and told them that they believe Leilani did this and that she doesn't remember. When they told Leilani that, she broke down crying, and at first she believed them, that she honestly didn't remember. But then it took her a while to snap out of it and realize and be like, no, you know what? I did not do this. Michael goes on to say he doesn't know if this is maybe an intimidation tactic the FBI uses, but that the family is always going to think that it could be possible, but they don't want to believe it's possible. And when discussing Danny, he states, Danny was the last person to see Quentin. He was the one that texted the babysitter, and that he was also 17 minutes late to work that day. They were discussing Leilani being the prime suspect, and Michael says he doesn't know if they're doing that because Danny is a flight risk because he already left at the time that information was given out. He said that people here are very upset about the way he was acting while he was here. He did not shed a tear, and he was walking with his head tall. Michael also says that Danny told them that he holds all the answers. And the whole family was very weirded out by that comment. And I'm also going to show you a clip that Diana McCarta actually said about Danny when she arrived that day.
He stood there, he looked at me with the most coldest look I've ever seen and said, "We've already looked." I said, okay.
Now, that was just a small snippet from the video that is of Diana McCarta's account of what happened that day. If you want to see the whole thing, this is what the video looks like, and I will link it down in the description below. So there you have it, guys. That concludes Michael's interview on Dolly Vision's channel. I'll be making a separate summary video of the one he does on Cher's channel, because there he's able to give us a little bit more details and clarify some things as well. Please do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, comment down below, and hit the bell notification to get notified for when I post.